Your high welcome, Ms. Saidat Katusiime at Center for Citizens Conserving the Environment and Management, based in Kasese. I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us about the Kasese Youths AIDS Foundation and its mission. Perfect.
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm Katusiime Saidat from Kasese Youths AIDS Foundation. I work as a programs manager, and we support young people living with HIV. Our mission is to support young people living with HIV holistically through partnering with funders and like-minded people organization sectors, supporting them in vocational support, livelihood support, educational support, and nutrition support.
How did you become involved in the intersection of climate change and public health?
We were invited for a voice lab with the Center for Citizens Conserving Environment and Management, where we got in touch.
Oh, that is good. How is climate change currently affecting the health of people in Kasese and the surrounding areas?
It has affected them in many ways. In diseases such as cholera, malaria. It has caused depression because of the floods that occur and sweep away people's property. It has caused anxiety, stress disorder, and so many others.
Do you mind sharing with us some simple examples of the health issues that emerge as a result of climate change, such as the increasing cases of malaria and waterborne diseases?
The health of what?
Health issues that emerge as a result of climate change. For example, the increased cases of malaria and waterborne diseases.
There is also mental illness. That comes when someone can experience like you have bought your stuff, so you have settled your home for so many years, and you experience floods that will sweep away all that. You go into stress, you experience anxiety, then somebody will be there with some mental illness because somebody lost a lot, the cattle, the what.
Yeah, that is good, because the health issues that emerge as a result of climate change in various communities are very enormous. Or we even have the food insecurity.
Yeah.
As an issue that raises as a result of climate change. Which populations in Kasese are most vulnerable to the health impacts of climate change, and why are they vulnerable to that?
People in mountainous areas, those people living in Kilembe, they can experience floods. And the people living near the riverbanks of Nyamwamba, as we know, it's a seasonal river that floods every year. It's a must.
How are the women and children particularly affected by these changes?
The women, most cases, some women, when it comes to floods and it brings out stress, some women who are pregnant can either get miscarriages, they can get diseases because of that, because floods bring a lot of dirty stuffs. It brings mosquitoes, it brings ticks, it brings flies. They can cause malaria, and malaria is not good to some women. And women who are pregnant, malaria is not best because it can cause miscarriage, Some people lose their properties. Kids mostly, some kids drown in the water,
Well, so in other words, the women and children suffer a lot when it comes to the floods and mudslides. For example, the women who are pregnant may get exposed to, are always homeless and get exposed to the reach of mosquitoes, whereby once a pregnant mother is suffering from malaria, at times it is passed on to the child, and it causes infant death.
At higher risk of even miscarriage.
Oh, that is so touching. What psychological effects have you seen in the community due to climate-related events like floods or droughts?
There is anxiety disorder. Because of a lot of stress.
People are stressed because of being homeless, losing their property, losing their beloved ones. Find some of the floods have occurred at night and people were sleeping. So by the time they want to vacate the areas, they are already touched.
Yeah, there is also traumatic. That is caused a lot of stress caused by drought and floods, where a person will lose property and gets on depression.
How is the community involved in the initiatives? Or are there any other mental health support systems in place for those affected by the floods or droughts? Are there some programs or projects that have come to giving aid to the people that are being affected by the climate change?
Support as in from organizations?
Let it be organizations, let it be local government.
Yeah, some by supporting those refugees who their property was swept away by floods. They're supporting them with some blankets, bed sheets, mattresses, and some foodstuffs. And they have given them a camp.
Was that being organized by the non-governmental organizations or the local government organizations?
Maybe the government gave them land.
Yes.
And some organizations come in to support, like bringing in blankets. Like in 2021, we had an organization, UNIPA. It was called Alliance a Week. They were moving in those communities affected, and they were giving out mattresses, they were giving out bed sheets, they were giving out some foodstuffs, supporting those people who were affected by the floods that even swept away the hospital.
What initiatives has the Kasese Youths AIDS Foundation implemented to address the health impacts of climate change?
We are going to create awareness in our adolescents on climatic changes.
So, besides creating awareness, are there any other activities that we engage in? How do you hope that they can combat the health impacts that arise as a result of climate change?
Yes, we are on a program, but we are just only lacking funds to support our adolescents and support our program of home gardening that will support on malnutrition that is caused by the climatic changes.
The food insecurity.
Then we want to create that home gardening so that some people, when you're at home, you have some greens, you have some tomatoes, you have some onions, you can plant them, whether you're in rent or where. But we only lacked funders. That's how we are, in addition to support on climatic changes.
How is the community involved in these initiatives that you are trying to give a push? And what has been their response so far ever since you showed interest of launching that program? As you have said, the home gardening. How has the community and the target population you're serving responded to them?
As by now, we just wrote a proposal, but not yet in approval. But we have been supported by a Uganda in some programs of baking and liquid soap making. And for them, they only stopped there because they said for them, for their part, it's done. So we are still on that. We don't know how we are going to proceed with it.
So Uganda. So it is no longer funding the baking activities.
No, they gave us stuffs to start up with, and we are on that. We have been baking little. As you know, when you're starting up, you don't have customers, and sometimes you make losses, so we are trying.
What role do you think policymakers should play in addressing the health impacts of climate change?
They should improve air qualities. They should strengthen public health infrastructures.
Yes.
Like hospitals.
Oh, that is.
They should support the vulnerable populations. Those people in mountainous and riverbanks, they should be supported by those policymakers.
Do you think the policies that are already enacted are doing something good, or they have failed to a certain extent as far as addressing the health impacts of climate change is concerned?
Pardon?
Do you think the policies that are already in place are effective, or are effective in addressing the health impacts of climate change, or they need to be reviewed and rephrased?
They are trying, but they need to be more improved because it is still happening.
So in other words, the policies that are already in place are less effective.
Yeah, less, because it's still happening, because people are still experiencing it. Then it means it is not yet effective as much.
How can local organizations or local actors like your organization influence policy and advocate for stronger climate action?
They can create that by creating awareness in some communities that don't know about climatic changes, like informing them on doing afforestations. On mountainous areas, how do we call this that they build to stop the flooding?
The terraces.
The terraces.
Yes.
Like you should create awareness in those people living in those areas. They should be aware of doing such a things to overcome the problems they experience.
They are also planting trees along the river banks and also along your garden.
Yeah.
On the sidelines of your garden, you can plant some good trees that have wider and thicker roots.
Yes.
To cover the soil from and calm down the mudslides and floods that can emerge. What are some of the most promising strategies or interventions you have seen for mitigating the health impacts of climate change in your community? That is basically Kasese.
Kasese is planting now trees. You can go around town, it is planting green pastures that is going to overcome some issues of climatic changes. Then those people experiencing floods, there is it a program, can I call it what? They are building are they cabins in Kilembe to reduce on the flow of water.
How can individuals and communities better prepare and adapt to the health challenges posed by a changing climate?
They should plant trees. good trees that can hold the soil.
There is also adapting the immobility systems. For example, the use of rechargeable vehicles, rechargeable motorbikes, rechargeable bicycles that have little or no dependence on fossil fuels, and they can reduce the emission of gases in the air. It is good for health because it protects the oxygen that people inhale. Also, it reduces the exportation and dependence on the fossil fuels. We can also, there is also the recycling, recomposing, and the reuse of the plastics and other associated materials that can conserve the environment. Proper disposal of which populations in Kasese are most vulnerable to the health impacts of climate change, and why are they vulnerable to that?
People living in mountainous areas like Kilembe are experiencing floods, are experiencing mudslides, and the ones living near the riverbanks of Yamwamba are experiencing floods.
Could you please tell us why they experience the floods? Is it because they are living in the river path? I don't know, how do they call it? Something of the kind. Why are they vulnerable to climate change?
They are vulnerable to climate change, like those ones living in the riverbanks of Nyamwamba. You will not tell about the climatic change. It may rain heavily. It may be in drought that the waters may settle and you intend to stay in that area, not knowing that when it rains, maybe, you know, the ones they say, so you may intend to stay in a place where you never knew that water used to go through that space. Then in that rainy season, the water will find its way out, even though you have built a house, even though you have done what. And that will damage some people's property.
How are the women and children particularly affected by these changes?
They are affected a lot mentally. They are affected mentally. Diseases or waterborne diseases like cholera. Of course, those water bodies bring a lot. They bring mosquitoes, flies, that can cause to diseases like cholera, malaria.
What psychological effects have you seen in the community due to climate-related events like floods and droughts? What psychological effects have you seen in the communities due to climate change like floods and droughts?
Psychological.
Yes.
There are some psychological problems that come with those issues of climate change, like anxiety. There is anxiety in those. There is also depression because some people lose their properties. And people go on stress because somebody may buy some stuff and all of a sudden the house is just vanished in water. And it will cause depression for them. And there is post-traumatic. That is a stress disorder. It is caused by, of course, when you know something, you can, like somebody has worked hard to put up something, like have worked up to put up your forest, and all of a sudden you get floods and they sweep away the what?
The house.
Well, even the plants, like you invested all your money and you grew some crops, all of a sudden, all your investments go. You'll of course get that stress disorder.
Are there any mental health support systems in place for those affected?
Yeah, they are there. There are some organizations that support those people who experienced those climatic changes. But I don't know some, but in some hospitals they used to give out some blankets, mattresses, bed sheets, soap. And once in 2021, we received an organization called UNIPA. It brought up a program, and we went to that refugee camp is it in Hocha?
Yes.
And they supplied mattresses, bed sheets, because those people lost their property in floods. There are some organizations that support them in giving them blankets.
What initiatives has the Kasese Youth AIDS Foundation implemented to address health impacts of climate change?
And the Kasese Youth AIDS Foundation has not yet started on that. We had a program, but we had not started it yet of teaching our adolescents on this home gardening thing, like putting crops at home, like even though you're in rent, you can get sacks and do what, but we were not yet in support because we lacked funders, but we had brought up that program and we just stopped it because we lacked funders. But as by now, we don't have much in this, but I hope with time we shall get to do it.
How is the community involved in these initiatives? What has been their response so far?
Response about the floods? No.
The response about the initiatives you have put in place to combat the climate impacts.
The community is supportive, only like some people now are just in a scary state because they have experienced a lot. You know, Kasese, we experience floods every year. In the past.
What role do you think policymakers should play in addressing the health impacts of climate change in Kasese as a community?
Policymakers, they should make a big role in advising people to stay away from riverbanks.
Yes.
Make them do afforestation. Let them support them in using solar panels in like plantations, like pumping water in those crops. They should use that climate support, climate renewable resources like solar panels in supporting the crops. Let them use the resources, the climate resources, renewable ones.
How can local organizations like yours influence policy and advocate for stronger climate action?
Beg your pardon?
How can local organizations, let it be local actors like yours, influence policy and advocate for stronger climate actions?
It's that.
We will create awareness in our adolescents. We will let them know about the climate and conserving the environment.
What are some of the most promising strategies and interventions you have seen for mitigating the health impacts of climate change? Some of the promising strategies or interventions you have identified in your ideal environment that can help to mitigate the health aspects of climate change.
You what I've seen, people have begun to plant trees that will reduce on that sunlight, and maybe the drought that comes to Kasese, that sunlight, we mostly get a long season of sunshine. And people are starting to move away from mountainous areas.
How can individuals and communities better prepare for and adapt health challenges posed by a changing climate?
You can just lead it.
Is it prior preparation and adaptation of the strategies or initiatives that are in the community to help challenge the changing climate?
Can you adapt to floods every time they come and sweep away your things? Just you create strategies of coming up with a solution.
Yes. So how are people preparing for that? How are they prepared for that? And what strategies have they put in place to make sure they can cap that down?
When you go around that river, you remember what banks, you'll find that they have started building that stone across it. Like when the water comes with a lot of energy, at least it will first stop on those stones to reduce that. They are creating that to reduce on the floods that take away a lot of things and destroy people's crops, people's shelter, people's animals. They are creating that. Then the next thing is a program going up in Uganda there. We're building kind of, is it like a dam or what?
Yes.
I heard of it that they're building.
Condemned cameras.
I think building them to reduce on the rate of the water, how it flows.
What message would you like to leave to our listeners with regarding the connection between climate change and health? Should it be what you ought to do in the collaboration we are having, and as far as climate and health is concerned?
Thank you. I would like to tell the community and the people that are listening, let's all work in hand and use the natural renewable resources. Let's learn how to conserve the environment. Let's plant trees. Let's do green vegetation. Let's conserve the environment. Let's not spoil the environment. Let's come together in hand. Let's avoid those river banks, those swampy areas. Because those swampy areas have mosquitoes, have what? That will lead to waterborne diseases and vector-borne diseases. Then when we do that, maybe that water flow, it comes with a lot of dirt, feces that will lead to cholera. Let's avoid that to be with a good community, conserve the environment, and in good health.
Does your organization advocate for a pollution-free environment?
Yeah.
For example, conserving, for example, the plastic-free agenda, whereby you devise means of recycling, recomposting the plastics to make sure people can minimize the use and dependence on plastics, and as well the proper disposal of both human and inhuman wastes.
Yes, we do that.
Yeah. Where can our listeners learn more about your work and get involved as Kasese Youth AIDS Foundation?
Kasese Youth AIDS Foundation is found at St. Mary's in Art Clinic, because we deal with positive people. So you'll find them in Art Clinic.
Okay. Do you have any various handles that on media that someone who could have interest in knowing what you do and what is transpiring within the organization could reach out to and get the relevant information?
We have not created a page yet, but we wanted to create a page. We wanted to create a page after starting the next process. We had a plan of starting the page, but of course we wanted to put in some people who are supportive, like the organizations that are going to support us in that page, so that when we post, but We are soon starting it, maybe by next week it will be up. Of course, it will be holding our name, Kasese
Youths
AIDS Foundation.
Thank you very much, Miss Saidat Katusiime, for this good interrogation we have had. As well, we are humbled to be partners with you, and we hope that all the initiatives we are going to bring on board will be a successful one. This is my name is Bwamabale Kenneth. I work at Center for Citizens Conserving the Environment and Management, and CECIC, the Center for Citizens Conserving the Environment, primarily focuses on policy and advocacy engagements, nature conservation and community engagements at grassroots. Also advocating for human rights. Thank you very much.